Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here in a second. So let's get started with how to prepare for sales meetings. Oh, look at that. One of the ways you prepare for a meeting is you make sure you change your header. Oh, well. So artificial intelligence is here to stay. If you've been following me this week, I've been doing 5 days. Today's day 4 of the training. But AI is being used by your federal customers, and so it should be used by you. This is as important as using Excel or Google and doing Google searches, for example. AI is here to stay, and so figure it out. And this training I'm doing is designed to help you do just that. Today, I want to talk about how you can use AI to create your sales questions that you're going to be using when you go into meetings. When you go into meetings with people and you're trying to do sales, it requires a dialogue between you and the customer. You're not just trying to tell them your features. You're trying to understand their problems, their challenges, their goals, their objectives, and then have a discussion around that where you then slowly begin to weave in your solution, your product, as an answer to the challenges or the goals that they have. And so you want to have questions prepared so that when you go into meetings, you're not stumbling along. I'm very good at sales, but if I go into a meeting, things might distract me. I might be hungry, anything, and I'm not as sharp. But if I write questions down, I can look down and go, oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about this. Spin selling is the methodology that I talk about for shaping questions. There's a book out there called Spin Selling written by Neil McDonnell. And basically, spin selling stands for situation, problem, implication, and needs payoff questions. And these are type of questions that help you uncover those challenges. Those are the questions I like to use. So in today's training, I'm going to show you 3 main things as it relates to preparing for your sales meeting using AI. The first thing is I want to talk to you about a call plan. It's really important when you go into a meeting, you have a call plan. So we'll dive into that. The second thing is I want to show you how you can use AI tools like ChatGPT to create the sales questions you're going to ask the customer and to be able to drive the dialogue and discussion. It's not an interrogation, it's a discussion, it's a dialogue, but these questions, when you write them down, help you keep that dialogue going. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is how to complete that sales meeting call plan. And really what I'm talking about there is how to look at the questions that ChatGPT helped you with and refine it down. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. A process goes from A to Z, and when you follow a process, you'll have repeatable, predictable results, and that's what I want for you. Do me a favor, before we get too far, put your company name, your keyword, in your core competency into the chat. Let us know who you are. You can never do this too many times. The amount of people who are watching these AI trainings, well over 1,000 people watch my trainings. You know, we've got about 50 to 100 who watch it live, and then well over 1,000 who watch each one of these trainings, in particular, these ones around AI. I get people constantly saying, I'm busy in the day, but I watch the replays at night. Somebody actually the other day said to me, I watch them at the end of the day as I wind down. I'm like, whoa, don't watch me to wind down. I've got too much energy. But put your company name and core competency in there. So all these people who are looking get exposed to your company name and your core competency. So when they want to find a company like yours, they'll remember that you were in the chat. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you to the GovCon Chamber of Commerce sustaining members. We don't take money from the federal government or large primes. We take money from sustaining members like you and me. We make all this training possible and all the material that we do possible for small businesses all across the country. And so on behalf of them, I just want to say thank you. And then last, I mentioned, if you've been here through this week in the training, during the live training, I said this is part of a 5-part series on AI in the GovCon space. Today's part 4. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about how to use AI to overcome any hurdles you're running into in your business as a small business owner. And frankly, it can be used for anybody, but really, how do I use AI to get back past a roadblock that I'm running into? So that's tomorrow's. The AI course that we had available and I've been talking about earlier this week, it's sold out. So that's gone. Okay, let's dive into the call plan. I just want to do a high-level introduction to the call plan so you understand this. I have a whole separate training. Maybe Gus or Cecilia will drop a link into the chat for you so that you can watch the training later on how to really do a call plan. But the purpose of a call plan is to help you have successful, not great meetings. Successful meetings move the sale forward. Great meetings are ones where we all love each other. Oh, so fun. They really appreciated what I shared. I appreciated sharing it, but nothing happened. In sales, our meetings should move forward, tangibly move forward. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But the purpose of this call plan is to help you make sure that you have a successful meeting. The sections over here on the right-hand side, if you're looking at the call plan template there, they're broken up into 5 sections. The first section at the top is basic information. This is important so that it has who's coming to the meeting from your side, from the other side, what date and time is the meeting, what's the information for joining the meeting, whether it's in person or virtual. And this is really important because if you hand this call plan to anybody else or you're sick and somebody else has to do the meeting, they have everything they need to know about that meeting and to have a successful meeting by looking at your sheet right here. The second bullet is meeting objectives, right? And this, I said it's private because you don't share this with the customer or the person you're meeting with, whether it's another teaming partner or federal agency buyer. It's your objective on how you will measure the meeting to be successful. So an example might be from a teaming partner. You want to get an NDA, or from a government buyer, you might want to get a copy of a document or an introduction to somebody, or even just the name of somebody who's in charge of the program office so you can do your own research. You determine what that objective is. And again, watch the training. I give you a lot of examples of how to do that. The third section is the what I call the icebreaker. Too many people go in, they look at the wall and they go, oh, you fish, you got kids, and they waste their time talking about unrelated stuff. What I teach you in the call plan is to have an introduction talking point or icebreaker that is designed to be used in those first 60 to 120 seconds so you can chit chat, but then quickly get to the meeting. For example, hey, Sally, I just listened to the podcast you did with Neil talking about the CIO priorities. It was so great. She goes, oh yeah, I love doing that. He just asked me some great questions. We had a great dialogue. Perfect. Thanks. Let's move on. Right. But you're talking about something she did related to what you're going to talk about. That's the idea of an icebreaker. Purpose of the call, and this is something you will share with them. And really, at the beginning of any meeting, you sit down and you say, hey, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on the purpose of today's meeting. If you're okay with this, I want to share what I think the purpose of the meeting is, and then just see if that works for you, if there's any changes, and then we can get started. Sound good? Yeah, sure. Okay, well, the purpose of the meeting for me is to introduce my company to you and to learn more about your agency or your company. Something like that. But basically, you're trying to establish the purpose of the meeting so people don't have different ideas of what the purpose of that meeting is. And it's okay to, adjust it on the fly right at the beginning, but make sure everybody knows the purpose of this meeting. The way we'll know it's a success is this. And then the last part are the spin questions, and that's what we're going to get into here in a second. But remember, spin questions are situation questions, which are factual questions. Problem questions make sense, right? Implication questions are, if you have this problem, what's the implication? An example is, if the computer servers are constantly going down, then the implication is no one can send emails anywhere, not HR, not logistics, no one. So it's not just an IT problem, it's a whole organization problem. That's the idea of an implication. What's the implications of that problem? And then need, payoff, we're not going to talk about it much in here, but that basically is where you begin to introduce your solution into the dialogue. So this is the call plan, and this is what I want to do with AI. I'm first going to show you the prompts, what I told Johnny. Johnny's what I call my ChatGPT program, right? I want to tell you the prompts I gave Johnny to give me the results that I'm looking for. I want questions. So first I'm going to show them to you in PowerPoint, then I'm going to go into the tool and show you the dialogue back and forth with the response. So let's go starting here. These first 4 bullets were the first prompt. It was all just flat, text, but I broke it up so you could see it. The first thing I said is, I want to work with you to create spin questions using Neil Rackman's spin selling module. So I'm trying to get ChatGPT to think about this, to go out there and go, oh, okay, you want to use this model for the way you ask questions. I got it. The second thing is, I have a meeting with a contracting officer in the Department of Army. I'm trying to establish right away who's the audience, and the Department of Army is putting them in the federal agency mindset. So I'm getting ChatGPT to think about the context of who I'm going to be talking to. So this is my first meeting, and I want to talk to them about using AI in the federal acquisition procurement lifecycle. So I've got a company. We do acquisition and procurement support. So we help the contracting shop do their job. I want to go in and talk about how we can also help you use AI to take it to the next level, reduce costs, whatever it is. And so I'm setting the context of what I want to discuss with the contracting officer to the tool ChatGPT in the third bullet. And the last thing I said to it was, hey, let's just get 10 problem questions. And remember, problem questions is alluding to the spin selling model. I'm saying, let's get 10 questions that are 20 words max each. So let me come over here for a second and go into ChatGPT. So by the way, I started it off with, are you familiar with it? I was trying to get it to think about it. And it started telling me all about spin selling. I'm like, be quiet, Johnny. I already know what it is. I just want to know if you knew. So here's that thing I just showed you, right? I broke it all down. And this is the results I got. It came back and it gave me these questions. And it started asking me things like, what difficulties do you encounter? How time consuming is the process, et cetera. And so it gave me these 10 questions, which are pretty good. But I noticed right away where it talks about utilizing AI and aligning AI initiatives. I'm like, whoa, you don't get it. So let me come back here. So then I refined the results. I said, let's do this again, but this time I want to use additional parameters, and you can use any word you want. I'm talking to Johnny in a conversational way that I would talk to an intern, a junior employee, or a colleague at an equal level. I'm like, hey, you know what? Can we do another stab at that, but do it with different parameters as follows? And so here's what I said. The contracting officer hasn't even thought about using AI. I want to introduce them. I don't want to ask them questions about tools. I want to ask them about the problems they have that AI might be the solution for in future conversations. So let's dig into their procurement and acquisition problems. I'm just trying to understand. I want you to think, ChatGPT, AI solves this. What problems do you have? And then I said, let's also make the questions less direct. You're coming at them too prosecutorial, or whatever single syllable word I could use there, but you're just driving at them too hard. That's hard sales. I just want it to be less direct questions. I want the questions to encourage discussion around implied needs. And I don't know if you've ever heard me say this before, but implied needs are the early thinking of a problem so that I can explore it further as I turn them into explicit needs, what we call pain in sales. In the contracting officer's mind. So I want to get that contracting officer to think about implied needs, and then I'm going to dig it further to become explicit needs through the questions ChatGPT will give me. And then I said, let's tone this down, make those questions 8th grade level. So let's go see what it did for me. So again, I just did what I just showed you there is right here in the prompt. I just wrote, by the way, I didn't overly think about this. I'm just talking to Johnny. I haven't even got to the sophisticated level of using ChatGPT. But ChatGPT is a good intern and says, sure, no problem, Neil. Here are 10 revised questions. And I loved it right away, where it starts talking about, can you describe any tasks or processes that consume a significant amount of time? Have you ever encountered challenges identifying mitigating risk during vendor evaluation? I'm loving this because now you're talking about acquisition and procurement, ChatGPT. This is perfect. And so I like these questions. I'm not going to dive too detailed for you, right? Yours is on a different topic. But I'm coming down, can you discuss any potential issues related to contract compliance or deviations? This is good stuff. Like, what do you run into? I'm trying to get them to admit that, oh my gosh, this is a pain for me. I hate this particular part of my job. That's really what you try to do is use AI and process improvement around the part of the job that we don't like or that's inefficient, et cetera. That's low-hanging fruit for improvement. So anyways, it came back and I love that stuff. Let me give it another refinement though. The next thing I said is, I like those questions and I wanted to add something different for you now. Now I asked it, hey, those were generic questions. And this one's really important for you to pay attention to because ChatGPT's basic information set is old. It's 2 years old, at least, right? They say that 2021 and earlier data is what it uses to come up with its answers. But you can give it new data, right? And so I said, can you create me 2 or 3 questions following earlier guidance that I did before? So, make it an 8th grader, talk to a contracting officer. Can you create me 2 or 3 questions following the earlier guidance, but using the following text to determine your question, right? And so let me switch back here to my browser and let me see if that's the one I did right here. There you go. So then I gave it this text, but let me tell you where I got it from. Remember, my company does acquisition and procurement support. So I came in, and because I'm going into the Army, I'm looking at the defense-wide procurement capabilities document, a functional strategy around this. And because I do my research before I meet somebody, I know this document. I was looking at it. And so I came down, I looked, doing my research. Where's page 10? So I came down here to this part, And I saw this part about developing procurement strategy. This is really important in the government space. If you don't know this, before they buy from you, they have to determine the procurement strategy. How are we going to buy? All that kind of stuff, right? What do we want to buy? How are we going to buy? What's the approach we're going to use? So I just grabbed those 2 paragraphs there and I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, can you sit there and give me 3 questions around that text I just highlighted? And then I dumped the text in here. I just copied it and pasted it. And so ChatGPT took a second to read it, understand it like a good colleague, and then it came back and it spat the answers back out. It says, hey, yeah, absolutely. Based on that content you gave me, here are the questions, right? Can you describe any challenges? What difficulties have you faced? These are good problem questions, right? I'm not saying yes or no. What difficulties have you faced is beautiful problem question. I'm getting them to kind of talk about it. But here it's around acquisition plans and J&As, right? Things like that. So it was good stuff. I can't remember if I got one more thing. No. So I'll come back to that in 1 second. So as I come down now, I didn't put this in PowerPoint. I'm going to show you how I begin to refine it. And I'm just watching my time here. So the next thing I said to ChatGPT, so remember those 10 questions, and forgive me for scrolling all the way to the top again for 1 second. Remember, I asked for 10 questions just generically. It gave me these 10 questions, right? I like them. I came down and I said, now, can you rewrite these 10 questions? And I just grabbed the questions and put them here. Instead of worrying about whether ChatGPT could go to the right place, I just grabbed all the questions that it gave me before. And I said, can you rewrite these questions so they're only 10 words? I just want shorter questions. And it said, sure, right? Again, Johnny's super nice. He just needs good guidance. And it came back and it began to refine these, right? Which tasks consume significant time and resources in your role? Look at that question and then, look at how it was originally written. Right here, it says, can you describe any tasks or processes within your role that consume a significant amount of time, et cetera? Scroll back down here to the other results, right? Down here, it shrinks it into these 10 words, which is perfect, right? And it did it for all of them. So I'm not going to keep going with that for a second because I'm going to show you how I put it into the call plan. So here I said, you remember those 3 questions from that DoD document. Can you do the same thing? And the whole prompt that I did was, hey, can you do the same thing for these other 3 questions? And Johnny, the intern, ran out, did it, and came back. Johnny's a great intern, well worth his money. By the way, everything I'm using is the free version of ChatGPT. So anyways, again, to make it easy for ChatGPT, I just put its own questions down here. I just copied and pasted and made it easy. Okay, so then it refined them. You can see here. Oh, let me come here. So then it refined it, right? And here it had to refine it pretty tight. So its questions are really loose. They're not exactly a perfect question. But for example, in this one, it says, it's just saying challenges in reviewing sourcing alternatives and determining suitable products. Look at that question there for 1 second. And then this, and then right here, can you describe there? That's the one that it just replaced. Can you describe any challenges you've encountered when reviewing sourcing alternatives and determining the most suitable products, services from vendors, et cetera? Working with ChatGPT, if I was creating a call plan, I would remember this question that it's asking, right? It's a good, well documented question, but it's too many words for my paper. So then I would come down here on my call plan, though, I would just put this question because it reminds me, I'm not supposed to read it off my call plan. I'm just using it as a trigger to the discussion. Hey, by the way, can you talk about challenges in reviewing sourcing alternatives and then determining suitable products and services? What challenges do you have around that effort, right? However I do it, it's a dialogue that we're having. And so this bullet is more than enough to remind me as we go forward. So it refined those questions down. Hopefully you're following that part. So let me show you the questions now. I took the questions and I brought them over here. And the thing I want to keep in mind as you think about the call plan, right, is the call plan at the bottom has the questions. I don't need 13 questions. I'm looking for 5 to 10 questions. I'm just trying to get the dialogue going. And so as I look through here, I'll start trying to figure out which ones now I might just rewrite on my own. Remember, ChatGPT is just this intern. They don't really know the job. they're super helpful, very competent, but not experienced at all. And so they give us material. It's our job as the subject matter expert. In this case, we're all experts on acquisition and procurement. We're going to refine the questions. And so I'm going to look at some of these. Like I like question 1. Any manual activities in procurement that could be streamlined for efficiency. I don't like question 2. And the reason I don't like it is because basically I'm trying to get the other person, the buyer, to tell me, hey, anything you don't like that I can sell you a solution for? Like that question is just too vague, so I won't use it. It's my job to discover what those manual activities are. And the way I would discover it by saying, hey, which tasks consume the most amount of time, right? Question number 1 is perfect. If you think about all the tasks in the procurement lifecycle, what are the top 3 that take the most time? There's generally an 80-20 rule, right? I'm ad-libbing on the question here. That's the idea of having questions in a call plan. But I love question 1. Question 2 is out. It's dead to me. How do you ensure accurate data analysis for informed procurement decisions? That question's a little too deep for me at the moment. I would probably leave it out because it's getting too deep, right? I can explore or pull threads on questions they ask, but I can't imagine asking that kind of a question so directly. That's more of a question I might submit, or I might actually submit a one-pager or a little video or white paper or whatever that talks about how organizations can ensure accurate data analysis or something, but it's not a good question here. Challenges identifying and mitigating risks during vendor process. I love that, right? So question 1, I like. Question 2 and 3 are out. Question 4, I like. And for me, when I'm asking it, I would think to myself, hey, what challenges do you have in identifying and mitigating risks during the vendor procurement or the vendor evaluation process? So I want to explore those challenges because AI can help with that. Opportunities to enhance transparency and accountability in procurement. I don't like that idea for a couple of reasons. Most people generally don't like accountability on their own job. We like it for everybody else. I like you to be accountable. I just don't want to be accountable. Not that we're, actually that way, but that's not a good sales question. It's like, how can I make have more transparency into how you do your job and more accountability into how you do your job? That's not something we want to ask them. Number 6, areas where advanced technologies could optimize. That's not a good question because that's like a needs payoff question once we understand the problem. I'm trying to discover problems. Number 7 is a problem question. Any bottlenecks or delays that could benefit from automation or intelligent assistance. And so here I would just kind of whittle that down a little bit. And I might say any bottlenecks or delays that just annoy the heck out of you, right? Something along those lines. And so you can see coming down, any issues with contract compliance from the procurement guidelines. That's a good one to maybe be asking head of contracting if you're talking to them, where it's a higher level activity. And then those last 3 questions, right, that came out of DoD, I might leave them in for a second. I'm not going to use my time whittling this down. But one thing I will tell you is how I ask those questions, right? I would say to the person I'm talking to, hey, I was looking at DoD document, blah, 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 blah. And I noticed it was talking about sourcing alternatives and determining suitable products and services. What kind of challenges do you run into then, right? There's times when it just works perfect, and there's times when you have challenges. What are some of those challenges you run into? And the same thing, what are some of those difficulties you have in coordinating pre-solicitation documents? I had a contract at CDC. It was a $10 billion contract vehicle where we ran the pre-solicitation document activity, right? So we could talk to that very thing about coordinating those documents and bringing all the players together. What I have discovered when I'm doing this exercise I just did with you is that I probably have like 5 questions that came out of this. And so I would take those 5 questions and go back to ChatGPT and say, hey, these 5 questions out of all the ones you gave me, I like. Can you give me 5 more like this and get rid of those other 5? And just keep teaching ChatGPT what I like, the type of questions I like. If you do this over a series of meetings, right, you'll eventually have a really good sales advocate or assistant with you, with Johnny, the ChatGPT guy. Or yours can be anybody you want to call it. Okay, so in this training, we talked about the purpose of a call plan. It's really, the purpose is to have successful meetings, move the sale forward. Make sure you go watch the training I have on it and deep dive into that because that's vital to your success. The second thing we talked about is how to use ChatGPT to get really great questions and think about the refinement we did. I'm happy to, by the way, share the text or the slides that I did on this. So if you want that, let me know in the chat. Say slides, please. I'm not giving you a whole bunch of fancy slides like these 4, but I want to give you the language I used for ChatGPT and talking to it. And the last thing we talked about is how do you refine it, the questions, and make sure you understand ChatGPT is just a really cooperative intern. You just got to give it some feedback. You got to give it some of your expertise so they can go away, give you another draft, give you another draft. It's your job to be the final reviewer, but they can give you, ChatGPT or any AI tool can give you a lot of good questions. Hey, if you get value from our trainings like this, these take a lot of work for us. We love doing it, but we'd love for you to become a sustaining member if you are getting value out of this. So become a sustaining member of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce today. And you can just go to www.govconchamber.com and do that. We did have a live course that we were telling people about all week using ChatGPT and AI at a whole nother level, but that's sold out. And then the last thing I just want you to remember is that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.